Shalom, everyone. I'd like to share with you what I think is a very poignant message from this week's Torah reading, Parshat VaYechi. It seems that finally and at long last, Yosef and his brothers are able to make peace and trust each other once again. But at the end of this week's Torah reading, we read that Yaakov dies. The brothers are all of a sudden overtaken by fear that Yosef now is going to take revenge. Perhaps they think that since Yaakov died, now Yosef will have an opportunity to revenge. And the only reason he had not been avenging his ill treatment to this point was because Yaakov was alive. Then Yosef reassures them a second time that he has no intention of taking revenge. After all, this was God's plan. What was it that led the brothers to be so full of fear? The Midrash gives us two suggestions. The first suggestion is that Yosef stopped dining with the brothers. Apparently, from the time that Yaakov and the brothers came down to Egypt, they would all eat together. Now, all of a sudden, Yosef stopped that practice. The second suggestion the Midrash offers is that when Yosef and his brothers were traveling to bury Yaakov, Yosef stopped at the pit that he had originally been thrown into. Both of these actions startled the brothers. But with further study, we could understand that these actions by Yosef were not at all intended to scare the brothers, or not at all intended as acts of revenge. In the first case, in the first instance, when Yosef stops dining with the brothers, the Midrash explains that the reason Yosef did it is because up until then Yaakov had seated Yosef in a place of honor, above Ruvain, the firstborn, and above Yehuda, who was representative of Malchut, of kingship. And Yosef felt that it was not proper for him to sit that way. He was only doing it because Yaakov, his father, had set it up that way. And so in order to no longer embarrass his brothers by sitting at the head of the table when he did not deserve it, he stops dining with them. And when it comes to the pit, the brothers thought that he went back there to inspire himself to vengeance. He would go back and see the scene of the crime and be so angered that he would take vengeance. But the real reason he went there, the Midrash teaches us, is to express hakarat hatov to God, to thank God for saving him and for eventually enabling him to prosper and be so successful in Egypt. So both of these acts were not considered to be acts against the brothers or to inspire Yosef against the brothers, but rather they were done, in the one hand, in honor of the brothers, and in the other hand, in honor of God. So why did the brothers think that both of these actions meant that Yosef soon would take vengeance against them? And I think the answer is one word: communication. Yosef never told them. Yosef never said, well, I stopped dining with you because I felt that Dad's seating arrangement was unfair, or I went back to the pit because I wanted to thank God. Had Yosef simply told them, the brothers would not have been nervous. And this reminds us of something so important, and that is the importance of communicating, of telling people how we feel, of explaining our actions to others. It is my experience that so many disagreements, so many misunderstandings, so many breakdowns in relationships can be avoided had there simply been more or better communication. Communication is such a fundamental tool in human relationships, and it is so often misunderstood. Many have pointed out, and I think this is correct, that often email is one of the great culprits of lack of communication. Because emails express no emotion. Emails have no nuance. And so often a face-to-face communication or a telephone call is a much more important and effective way of communicating. But it goes well beyond that. It goes into the realm of simply opening up and explaining to people our thought process, how we're feeling, why we're doing what we're doing. In this case, we would have hoped that the book of Genesis, that Sefer Bereshit, would have actually ended with the brothers trusting each other entirely. But according to the Midrash, that is not the case. Not because Yosef had any ill will towards the brothers, and not because the brothers had any ill will towards Yosef, but simply because they were not able to communicate with each other and explain their actions and feelings with each other. It's an important message for us to hear as we close the book of Bereshit, the book of families, and open the book of Shemot, the book of the nation of Israel. Not only is communication important one-on-one and within families, it is also so very important within the nation, within the different groups of Am Yisrael, of the Jewish people. Communication, proper communication, can make all the difference in the world. The difference between a successful relationship and a failed one. This is one of the last and lasting messages of the book of Genesis, Sefer Bereshit. Shabbat Shalom.